All right, then. So, welcome up next. We'll turn our attention to economic matters in a moment.
Well, indeed, the economy, is very important. Maybe perhaps immediately after security, the economy is usually what comes next. And in the last couple of days, we've dwelt on the economy. If we're not talking farmers, herdsmen, or also linking it with the security climate in the Southwest, the new Finance Act, which has been signed into law, has taken the front burner. And one element within that act, which is the automotive, the effect is going to have on the automotive industry, it has, continued to rage on. This morning, we have with us Otunbadeni Adebayo, who is the Minister for Trade, of Industry, Trade and Investment in our Abuja studios. Honorable Minister, you're welcome to Sunrise Daily.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here with you this morning.
Same here. We're very glad that you've taken time out to answer some of the questions that I'm sure a lot of our viewers have, and also even the concerns that stakeholders in this particular sector will have. Just a few years ago, I think a year after that policy was launched, the automotive policy was launched, PwC, PricewaterhouseCoopers, did a 1 year after, summary of some sort on what is expected of that industry. Nigeria is looking to be the automotive hub of West Africa. Isn't that right?
That's right.
And some of the things that are listed, to help us get there, which according to them could produce 3 scenarios: rapid growth, medium growth, and also slow growth, which is sadly where it seems we are. Some of the things that we need to do to fully accomplish our potential of becoming Nigeria's automotive or Africa's automotive hub include continued policy support. The very first thing was continued policy support. It does look like that fundamental is under threat as we speak. Is that really the situation? What exactly is going on there?
Actually, it's not. What has happened, the Finance Bill of 2020 has come as a result of the effect of the COVID-19 pandemic. Government realized the problems that its citizens were encountering as a result of the pandemic, the damage it did to the economy. So government came up with the act with a view to lessening the burden on the Nigerian citizens as it affects the automotive industry, particularly Section 38, which concerns the automotive industry. Tariffs were reduced. With the result and the reason behind this was so that Nigerians could afford to buy vehicles. Not only that, it would help with reducing the price of food in the market because you need to transport the food from the farm gate to the market.
Well, what kind of vehicles were they hoping the Nigerians would be able to buy?
You see, that's the problem. What we have found was that with the auto policy as at now, the vehicles that were being produced by manufacturers in Nigeria, those who are doing the assembly in Nigeria, were too expensive for the average Nigerian to buy. So the whole idea is to give Nigerians an opportunity to be able to buy second-hand vehicles which are affordable for them. But this is a short-term measure. There is a long-term measure that is coming up.
That is passenger vehicles. I want us to be more specific.
Yeah, passenger vehicles and also commercial vehicles. The whole idea is let there be an opportunity for vehicles to be able to come into the country so that people can afford to buy them for now. Now, going forward...
Including second-hand vehicles?
Yes, including second-hand vehicles, because that's what it
or especially second-hand vehicles?
Because that is what people can afford today. The vehicles assembled in Nigeria as at today are too expensive for people to buy, right? However, I will come to that. The auto policy that we are operating as at today was formulated in 2013, right? Our ministry, which has been in the forefront of the support for the auto industry, has come up with a new auto policy. When we came into office, we decided to revise what was on the ground with a view to bring it up to date with current circumstances, bearing in mind what the auto producers are going through. We are at a stage whereby we've held public hearings with the industry. We have a draft policy ready. We're still going through the processes, and we are hopeful that within this first quarter, we will be able to take it to the Federal Executive Council with a view to having it approved and then hopefully sent to the National Assembly to be passed into a law. The whole idea is also to use it as a means of encouraging the original equipment manufacturers. What we have today in Nigeria, we have over 30 assemblers in Nigeria today, right? With an installed capacity of about 400,000 vehicles. However, what they are able to produce is still too expensive for the average Nigerian buyer. So there are other things, there are other levers that we're putting in place in the auto policy, which will hopefully bring the prices down and make affordable for the Nigerian people. One of the things that we're looking at is a federal government-backed finance scheme for people to buy vehicles, whereby money will be made available at single-digit interest rate for people to be able to buy made in Nigeria vehicles. One of the things we're in discussions with the Equipment Leasing Association of Nigeria Airline with a view to having a scheme with them whereby they will lend money to people to be able to get these vehicles on credit as well. So there are various schemes that are going on with a view to making these vehicles affordable to people. Yes, the short-term measure that has come across as a result of the Finance Act 2020 is in place today. That is a short-term measure, but we are looking at the medium to long-term measure.
When we say short-term, how long is the short-term?
Well, like I said, we are hopeful that the first quarter of this year, we will be able to get the new policy that we have prepared. We are hopeful that we'll get it passed by the Federal Executive Council. Before the end of the year, hopefully, early next year, we should have a law passed by the National Assembly supporting that policy. And we will move from there.
In other words, we're looking at least 12 months. By that time, this new Finance Act should be expiring, shouldn't it?
My point here is that, you see, government has found itself in a situation whereby it has to respond to the yearnings of the people. People need to buy vehicles. Yes, we need to support the auto industry, which we are doing. We are doing that. We have certain funds that we use to assist them as well. So it's not that we have left them in the lurch, but we are weighing one against the other.
But for some people, it's the damage. One of the things that investors look at is, the policy environment and, of course, whether or not policy will somersault. Nigeria has not had a very good reputation when it's come to consistency in a policy, especially from one government to another, even sometimes within, a certain government. That has, in many ways, impacted investor confidence. Now, if this is the situation right now, I mean, you say it's for a short term, but the damage that it's going to do is going to be long term. You don't agree with those?
No, I don't agree.
That?
It's not long term, because what we're putting in place is for the long term. You see, having an auto policy is not. You don't look at it just for today. We're looking at it in the long term. You see, one of the things that the auto policy is supposed to do is to create spillover of manufacturing within Nigeria. That
hasn't happened.
It has not happened, which is why we are reviewing the policy that was set up in 2013 with a view to actually, you see, most of the assemblers we have today, most of the assemblers we have today do SKD, which is semi-knockdown vehicles, right? What we want is CKD, because that is the one that actually leads to local manufacturing. We want a situation whereby manufacturers within the Nigerian manufacturing space will manufacture the components that will be used in the CKDs. That is what we are working towards.
One of the things that came out in the conversation we had with Honorable Wadada yesterday was the fact that there was no consultation whatsoever. This came out as a complete and total surprise to them. Was that deliberate?
Well, this is it's a bit of a difficult situation for me, because I'm part of government and I'm responsible for the auto industry. My ministry is responsible for the auto industry. However, like I said, because we looked at it as a short-term measure, we felt that it was something government had to do. Government had been talking about it for some time. And because we know that we have a long-term, medium to long-term measure coming up, we felt that since we already had a new policy that was coming up, we could do something in the short term with a view to knowing that we had the long-term measure coming up.
With no engagement whatsoever with those currently in the sector?
Well, like I said,
just to allay their fears.
Like I said, because we already had an engagement with them with regards to the new auto policy coming up, we felt that we could go ahead with this because they knew also that there was a new policy coming up.
Yeah, well, they saw it as some sort of betrayal because according to...
that
was how it felt for them because according to Honorable Wadada, they had just had a meeting with the Vice President, I mean, at that level, and then all of a sudden they see this coming out in the Finance Act and they're wondering what was going on.
The meeting was held after the bill had been passed. Because I was part of that meeting. The meeting was held after the bill had been passed.
Okay, and there was no mention of that particular part?
No, we have engaged with them. Even after that meeting, I held a meeting with the Association of Motor Manufacturers of Nigeria, and we are laying their affairs with a view to seeing to it that they are not unduly... it is not the intention of government to penalize anybody. We want them to be in business. It is the business of government to see to it that our investors make money from their investments, and we will continue to support them to do so.
Well, there seems to be some lack of clarity right now on what is going to happen to those people who have already, who have shipments on the way, so to speak, in terms of tariffs and what have you. Are you having a conversation with customs?
No, that is being worked out with the Ministry of Finance, yes.
Okay. Well, let's take a break now. I'm sure when we come back, my colleagues will have questions for you.
Thank you.
Please stay with us. Adeni Adebayo, Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, is our guest this morning. He's here in our Abuja studios. But we're taking now to our studios in Lagos, where my colleagues have questions for him.
Yeah, Honorable Minister, well, you did say that there's a new policy that the government is working on to ensure that we get towards CKD, moving away from the SKD. So could you shed a little more light on that? What are we going to rely on? Because we know that we're still grappling to get the steel industry up and running as we will want to be.
Yes. Well, where we are right now, like I said, we have a draft of the policy ready. It is still going through the process within the ministry. We have held consultations with the auto industries, with the stakeholders in the industry, and we are hopeful that before the end of this first quarter, we should have it presented to the Federal Executive Council. Now, the whole idea of this policy is for us to be able to get to a point whereby we give comfort and confidence to investors in the industry. We have been in talks with the what we call the OEMs, original equipment manufacturers, with a view to them coming to set up manufacturing plants here in Nigeria. The whole idea is to make Nigeria the manufacturing hub of Africa. As you're aware, we've signed on to the African Continental Free Trade Area, which has a 1.2 billion people market. The 200 million of that 1.2 billion is here in Nigeria. So it makes sense for anybody who is in this sector to use Nigeria as the manufacturing hub. So we are putting in place the policy which will give them that confidence to know that we have a law that guarantees their investment here in Nigeria.
Well, Honourable Minister, maybe I would rephrase that line of thought from my colleague, because with every policy, a good number of people will say that the reason why some of the policies we come up with don't particularly work as effectively as they ought is because there are words that perhaps are not in touch with the realities on ground before those policies came on board. For instance, we have an automotive policy in Nigeria that didn't factor in, that intends to galvanize production in Nigeria, but did not factor in the fact that we have a shortfall of steel in the country. We are an oil-producing company that does not take full advantage of the byproducts of the oil, which are primary products that will be useful in the automotive industry as well. So before that policy you're talking about can come on stream, there needs to be certain infrastructure on ground, such as steel production and other, petrochemical products that are useful in automotive production. Where are we on those preliminaries before we can talk of this policy?
No, we are not unmindful of these facts. We are aware of the lack of the infrastructure for us to have a successful auto industry. However, government is doing a lot in that regard. You will notice that my colleagues in the Ministry of Steel Development have been engaging with a view to seeing what they can do with Ajaokuta. A lot is being done in the steel industry with regards to steel products. A lot is being done in the rubber industry. A lot is being done in the wood industry. We're looking at a situation whereby there will be a multiplier effect. This policy is supposed to bring a multiplier effect with regards to manufacturing within the Nigerian ecosystem. That's the whole essence of having this policy. It's not just for the auto manufacturers, but also a spillover of what motor manufacturing will do for the manufacturing sectors in Nigeria.
Well, one of the issues that's disturbing for a good number of people about this was that the policy that's under review right now, to a good number of people, the belief is that that policy was supposed to generate employment in millions. When we talk about primary direct employment, some, from the report of the Nigeria, that a report that was produced by NADDC pointed to the possibility of generating employment up to about 9 or 10 million direct employment. And of course, we can imagine the number of indirect jobs that this will produce. That policy reversal of reducing the 35% to 5% on that import this thing. But a number of people are saying that's some very, very serious backlash on that agenda, on that policy. And it was because, according to the Minister of Finance, that policy wasn't working well. So on the one hand, you have a policy that has reversed your agenda of creating jobs, and at the same time, it is something that has stayed 6 years into your administration. How do we ensure that this new one doesn't go the same tangent?
Now, look at it from this point of view. The auto industry, manufacturing of motor vehicles, we do not look at it as a sprint. We look at it more as a marathon, right? It is a long-term thing. What is happening now with this reversal of the 2013 policy is a short-term thing just for now, for today, because of the problems that have come as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, right? Now, what government is saying is that what we're working on, the new auto policy that we're working on, we are looking at it within the medium to long term. The whole idea is that we will now sit down, come up with a framework that will satisfy manufacturers. They are the ones who will be the ultimate beneficiaries. As of today, the auto industry employs, I think, 5,000 direct workers and about 20,000 indirect workers. This is very minuscule compared to what the number of people that should be employed by this industry. So we believe that with what we are doing now, and like I said earlier, we have been in touch with the stakeholders. This is not something that we've done on our own. We held public meetings with the stakeholders. We held private meetings with stakeholders to put it all together. The current draft form, I believe, is going out to the stakeholders for them to have their input into it as well, to make sure that what we come up with finally, before we take it to a Federal Executive Council, is something that is agreeable to them. If they feel that there are any areas there that they're not agreeable to, we will sit down and look at these areas, because all we want a situation whereby they will have the confidence to invest their money to manufacture vehicles in Nigeria. Nigeria will get the benefits by her citizens being able to afford to buy cars, and we will also gain benefits by the employment of our people.
Honorable Minister, I'm a little concerned. There have been, over the years, car manufacturing, car assembly plants in this country since as far back as I can remember, when the government of General Gowon in the 70s, commissioned that plant in Lagos and in Kaduna to manufacture and to assemble cars in Nigeria. And over the years, all of that dwindled until even this 2013, when the attempt was made to revamp it with the creation of NADDC and, with that act of 2014 and the rest of that. So the concern here is, over the past 6 years, this has gone on, and a number of people will say, that is long-term enough. 6 years is quite long-term enough. And then there was that reversal of all of the activities until the time when this interregnum that you're talking about is on. What happened over the years that crashed the auto industry? And what's the assurance we have that we will not go back to the same thing?
Which is the assurance you have. Let me start with that. The assurance you have right now is the fact that we are making a comprehensive review, right? We are working with the practitioners, the manufacturers, all the stakeholders, and whatever we come up with will be passed into law with a view to seeing that it is sustainable. What we're trying to do now is, because we've discussed with the original equipment manufacturers, we've discussed with the Hondas, the Toyotas, the Volkswagens, all the different manufacturers. We'll be discussing with them that they should, because what we have right now is we have their agents assembling vehicles here. They themselves are not here. We want them to come here and manufacture themselves. So we have been discussing with them, and they have told us what they require of us. And we are working to put in place what they require of us. That will give them that confidence. I cannot speak for past governments. I can speak for this government. This government, when it came in, tried to work with the policy that was in place. When this government realized that policy was not working, we decided to review it and come up with a new policy. And like I said, we are at the point whereby that new policy will soon be in place. And once it's in place, you will begin to see the benefits of that policy being put in place.
Well, I mean, we kind of emphasize the need to have the OEMs come and, of course, establish so we can, build from the scratch and create more opportunities. But I recall you also spoke about engaging stakeholders, and I imagine that involves those who have invested, who are currently in Nigeria, who you have referred to. And at one of those meetings when they were, looking at some of the provisions of the Finance Act, some of these investors, by the way, some of them have invested billions in the industry. And this is what one of them had to say, and I'd like you to give a response to that. It says, we have invested all that money. What is going to happen to us, the investors, in the vehicle assembly plant with this policy somersault? Now, that was the term that was used. Will the federal government come to our aid with incentives for the monies already sunk into the investment? Is the government looking to come to their aid? Because they see this as a policy somersault, and they say it's affecting their business adversely.
No, I would not refer to it as a policy somersault. I would refer to it as a policy review. And one thing that government is doing to assist them is with the passage of, in 2017, of the Executive Order 003. Government has given a directive that all vehicles to be purchased by government MDAs should be purchased by from manufacturers of vehicles in Nigeria, and that is ongoing. We are following up on that, and we are making sure that we want to make sure that that order is carried out to the letter. So that is one of the ways by which we will be assisting them. We are looking at other ways. We are looking at other incentives. We're looking at other levers that we can pull in the short term to assist them. We have a pool of funds within the Nigerian Auto Design and Development Council, which we use as a means of loans to these local assemblers as well. Some of them have been benefiting from it, and they will continue to benefit from it. We are here not to stop people from doing business. We encourage people to do business, and government will continue to encourage them and to assist them to do business so that whatever investments they make, they are able to realize their profits from it.
According to MBS...
You must remember that the more profits these people make, the more government benefits from it as well, because government taxes them as well. So it is in the interest of government to see to it that they make a profit, because from that profit, government gets revenue as well.
Well, I mean, looking at figures from the NBS, just about 1.1% of registered vehicles in Nigeria belongs to government. So if we're saying government will patronize, these manufacturers or assemblers, whatever term you want to use, I mean, it's not going to be as much as having, private, owners, commercial owners who account for a large chunk of registered vehicles in Nigeria. So we still need to tap into that market. Yes, government government will purchase, but you need to have individuals, everyday people purchasing. Now with this reduction in duties and all that, a lot of people will be going to get, fairly used vehicles, or what we call second-hand, and there might be a glut, really. So I don't know if this is mid-term, long-term, or short-term, but how do we ensure that eventually when this policy comes in, people will now turn their attention to locally manufactured vehicles, which of course might be expensive. Don't forget, they've already purchased second-handed vehicles. So how would you ensure sustainability for those local manufacturers?
Now, like I said earlier, what has happened now with the finance bill is a short-term measure just to assist the Nigerian populace. And like you and I both know, most Nigerians like to buy brand new vehicles. We are working with the government to see to it that there is a government-backed credit finance to enable people tap into to be able to buy brand new vehicles. These brand new vehicles, this fund will be for people to buy brand new, locally assembled vehicles. So we are not trying to punish or be wicked to the local manufacturers. We are trying to assist them. We are looking at ways and means. Like I said, even after the passage of the Finance Act, we have still engaged with them. We are still talking to them. I still hold meetings with them. I think we have a meeting coming up within the next couple of weeks as well to look at ways and means by which government can be of assistance to them while we are putting in place the medium to long-term measures that we want to put in place.
Okay, let me just maybe restructure the question. So with this reduction, there's a tendency, a possibility, very high possibility that there might be saturation of vehicles, really. A lot of people will be looking to purchase vehicles because of the reduced, duties and what have you. So my question is, how do you phase out that saturation? Because the average Nigerian does not buy vehicles because, I want to fill my garage. I buy it because I need it. So if I've purchased a vehicle as a result of this reduction in levies and duties, how would you ensure that people will still patronize? I don't know if you understand my question. Eventually, when these policies come into effect.
When these policies come into effect, right, it will be difficult for people to import these second-hand vehicles that we're talking about. We will go back to a regime whereby policies will be reflected in such a way that the local manufacturers would have the advantage vis-a-vis importation of vehicles.
I'm just
Are we-
worried,
okay.
Honorable Minister. Was this the best option that we could find, or was this just the easy way out? How thoroughly did we think through this short term? I know you have emphasized the fact that this is short term, but there are those who will say that this short term decision is definitely going to have a long term effect.
Look at it from this point of view.
Let me explain quickly what I mean. First and
I don't want
foremost,
to lose my train
it's
of
very
thought.
easy right now.
I don't want to lose my train of thought.
Okay, go ahead.
I don't want to lose my train of thought. Last year, the demand for vehicles was 700,000. Right? The local manufacturers were only able to manufacture 14,000.
They claim that they have capacity.
They have capacity for 400,000. Right? Wait, they have capacity for 400,000.
You acknowledge that much?
Yes, I do. They have capacity for 400,000. But who can afford these vehicles? Government is in a difficult position. Do we want to assist our people to be able to buy cars or not?
For a government that is looking to improve unemployment figures, you want to get your people. Wasn't it in our best interest for us to say if the demand is 700,000, local capacity is about 400,000, we've only been able to produce 14,000, shouldn't the focus be on activating the capacity to actually produce that 400,000 and seeing what hindrances are there?
And then who'll be able to afford them? The reason why they're only producing 14,000 is because that is what they can afford to sell.
That's part of the work. So if you say, I'm looking at this report that was done in 2015, part of what they said, apart from continued policy support, there was also improved chances of owning a car. That was part of it. Tightening the borders. The government had this entire window of, in which they tightened the borders, setting up auxiliary industries, building human capital. So all of these things were supposed to have gone with the automotive industry, the automotive policy rather, improved chances of owning a car was supposed to be part of it.
Very good, which is why I say I don't speak for the government that came before this one. I speak for this government. And that is why this government is starting afresh with a view to seeing to it that we have in place what is beneficial to both the manufacturers and to the Nigerian population.
How fresh is fresh? Honourable Minister, we spoke to the Minister of Finance. She admitted that this policy was long overdue for review. If that is the case, I mean, this government has been in power now for 5 years plus. I mean, it's already going to its 6th year, so to speak.
Well, one thing this government has done is, when it came into office, it did not want to just overturn everything.
Indeed.
So wait. It tried to work with it to see. And when it got to the point when it realized that it was not working, it decided to take measures. And that is why we are working on the review. That is why we decided to review what was in place.
In other words,
we realized it was not working.
The review is not done.
Yeah.
The review is not complete.
No, we have a draft. We have a draft. That's what I'm saying. We have a draft policy. That draft policy, I directed, I think 2 weeks ago, that it should be shared with the stakeholders so that they will see what we have done. If they have any questions, if they have any observations, they will bring it to the table. When we meet again, they will bring it to the table, we will look at it and come to a final agreement. It is that final document that I will now present to the Federal Executive Council. When it is passed at the Federal Executive Council, we will now prepare a bill that we will send to the National Assembly to pass into law. You see, it is that law that will now give confidence to the manufacturers.
Honourable Minister,
and that is what gives us that sustainability that we're looking for.
What we have done is very akin to, let me put it this way, the federal government has talked about how they want to achieve rice sufficiency in rice production, and they want all Nigerians to eat locally produced rice. And, you know, a lot of Nigerians have cried out about how expensive. Rice is a basic commodity. Even if we don't own cars, we have to eat. A lot of Nigerians eat rice. They have said, oh, if in the meantime, in the interim, locally produced rice is going to be expensive. This is something that a lot of people foresaw. And then we saw interventions by the CBN, and we also saw state governments coming into partner to see how it is that they could make rice affordable for the ordinary Nigerian. It was something that was, you know, foreseen, so to speak. Now, when we came up with this automotive policy, it was taken for granted that in the first few years, it's going to be very difficult for the average Nigerian to be able to afford this locally produced vehicle. It should have gone without saying that we needed to find a way to ensure that people who had jobs, you know, who had, you know, a certain level of income could purchase these cars. Didn't it go without saying?
Thank you very much. This is exactly what we're trying to do. That is what this government is trying to do.
In how many years?
I said we came in, we met a policy on ground, we tried to work with it, it was not working, so we are reviewing it. Now with this review, all these things that we feel should be in place will be in place.
We didn't see the need for it before now?
We came in 2015.
I'm talking about the ensuring that Nigerians are able to own vehicles.
That is what this auto policy is all about. That is what the review of this policy is all about. It is our desire. It is the desire of government. It is the desire of the president to see to it that Nigerians can afford to buy cars. So wait, the pride of any government is for Nigerians to be able to buy their own cars made in Nigeria. And to go further, right? The NADDC, the National Automotive Design and Development Council, has also been mandated to come up with a made-in-Nigeria 100% car, a designed-in-Nigeria car. That is being worked on as well, because everybody is aware that how many people can afford to buy a car that is 9, 10 million.
So in the meantime, we say, okay, you know what? Open the borders. Let as many imported rice as can make their way into the country, so that Nigerians can
I don't
eat.
believe we're talking about rice now.
That's basically what it seems we've done. So we're
okay,
saying,
would you rather a situation whereby we say Nigerians, you can't buy cars?
Is that what we've done with the rice policy?
I'm not talking about rice, I'm talking about cars.
But it's almost the same thing.
Please, I came here to talk about cars.
Can we not compare the two of them?
I'm not the Minister for Agriculture.
Indeed.
I'm the Minister for
Honourable
Trade and
Minister,
Investment. No, please, honestly, let's not split hairs, right? we're talking about vehicles. We have a situation whereby people cannot afford to buy cars. So government has said, okay, in the short term, let us do this so that people can buy cars, right? We are working on the medium to longer term such that when we get to a point where people can afford to buy the locally made in Nigeria cars, we will create a situation for them to buy these cars.
Let's take a break at this moment. When we come back, we'll wrap up our discussion. Please stay with us. Well, Honourable, beg your pardon, Otumba Adini Adebayo is still with us in the studio, and Jimmerling, you have a question.
Yeah, I was wondering, could you tell us what's going to happen to the NEIDP because it runs from 2013 to 2023?
Well, what we're doing, like I said, we are reviewing it. So the review that we are doing, once it is passed, will take over from the existing one. Okay,
and then before you go, after, there's a lot of concern. We know manufacturers raise concerns about that. So because we're wondering, can we ever achieve half of our potential or what we set out to achieve if we don't address the power supply or electricity challenge?
Yes, government is doing a lot in that regard. And that is why government has come up with a policy whereby they're trying to use alternative power sources, renewable power sources for powering of residential premises so that a lot of what is on the national grid will be able to go to industrial clusters. Another thing that we are doing as a ministry is we are working on creating industrial estates, industrial clusters, and we are working on seeing how we can power these industrial clusters with through independent power sources, especially gas-powered. And the whole idea is that once we create these industrial estates, we put in all the infrastructure, power, roads, water. All the manufacturers need to do is come in. It's like a plug-and-play type thing. You just come in, put in your factory, and you have all the infrastructure necessary for you to run your manufacturing services there. So a lot is going on in that regard. We want to take advantage of our membership of this African Free Trade Area, and the way to take advantage of it is to attract manufacturers into Nigeria. My ministry has been in talks with many foreign countries who have shown a lot of interest in coming to invest here in Nigeria. All we are working on doing is putting the necessary and right infrastructure in place to enable them find Nigeria as a suitable place for their investments.
Well, we have to thank you so much for coming on the program this morning. Otumba Adini Adebayo is the Minister for Trade and Industry and Investment. We have to thank you for sharing your thoughts this morning and a little more light on what is going on with the automotive industry. Tell us, though, when are you meeting with them again?
Well, we're trying to put a date together once we have a suitable date. But I'm hopeful that within the next couple of weeks, we should meet with them.
In the next couple of weeks? Yeah. So 2 weeks, 3 weeks?
2.
2 weeks. Okay. So
maximum 3.
We will be following up to see exactly what is going on in that particular sector. But we thank you again for coming to our studios this morning.